Well, I thought today I would challenge myself and you guys by making some trail mix for our 18-inch doll friends. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy this project is. All right, to make our trail mix, we're going to make each component separately and then we'll mix them together, kind of like you would if you were making trail mix in real life. And while I don't have trail mix on hand, I had all the components I would use to make trail mix. I have M&Ms. I picked out one of each color M&M, a couple of raisins, a couple of peanuts, and a couple of cashews. You could add other things to your trail mix for your dolls, and if there's specific items you want to add that I don't cover, let me know. Maybe those can be part of a video in the future. But we're going to start with the M&Ms, the candy covered chocolates. And for that, I picked out these colors of clay. I have an orange, a red, a dark brown, a green, a blue, and a yellow. Now the exact colors I used will be on the blog post. I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to condition the clay, and then I'll come back and show you how to do one of the colors of M&M. Now, if you are not familiar with working with polymer clay, I will try to have at the top of the screen about now a link to one of those iCard links to my playlist of how to work with polymer clay, where it will explain how to condition your clay and how to work with clay. So that we don't have to cover that today, we're going to cover how to make our specific items. So I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to condition one of these colors, and I'll show you how to make the M&Ms. All right, I've conditioned my clay, and I've rolled this yellow out to an 1/8 inch snake. Now, one tool that I love to use for measuring the diameter of the snake of clay is this drill gauge. And you can see here's the 1/8 inch hole. This fits just perfectly in that. I got this years ago at Home Depot. Now, I love this one because it is made of metal. I think the newer ones are all plastic, which means you would have to be very careful to thoroughly clean it. But these are not very expensive. They're sold where the power tools, drills, drill bits, that kind of stuff is, and the home improvement stores. They go from a 1/16 of an inch all the way up to a 1/2 inch, and it's really useful for measuring balls of clay or snakes of clay. The other thing I'm using today to help me is this piece of 8 squares to an inch graph paper. Sorry, my brain is not working today. And I'm just going to lay this here and attempt to not have my hands shake really badly. And I'm not going to worry about keeping this round really. I'm just going to cut off 1/8 inch pieces. If it moves, that's okay. I'll just slide it back to the line. This way I'm portioning out my clay, and it's all going to be about the same size. I'm just going to use one right now. Roll that into a nice little ball of clay. Get it nice and round. Now I'm starting with yellow because yellow is the lightest color. When you're working with your clays, go from lightest to darkest, saving the red for last. That way you won't risk putting as much, you won't transfer color from one color to another. And then take your finger and just make this flat. Kind of flatten it out so it's kind of an M&M shape is really the only way I can describe it. It's M&Ms are kind of a flattened disc. And then transfer that to your clay baking surface. As you know, I almost always use a plain white paper plate. And then when you get all of them done, bake them at the recommended temperature for your clays for about 10 minutes and let them cool. Now, I'll be using different brands of clay, which means I will be taking the temperature that is lowest. So I'm using Fimo, I'm using Sculpey. I don't remember if I have other brands or not in my clay. Whatever one is the lowest temperature, that's the temperature I'm going to use. But just so they get baked for 10 minutes and are cooled down. So I'm going to make M&Ms out of the rest of those colors so that I have a variety of colors of M&Ms. When I get those all baked, I'll come back and we will go ahead and put a finish on them. All right, here are the M&Ms that I've got done, and we're now going to put a clear coat on them because M&Ms are really the only item in our trail mix that has any shine at all to it. I've got a piece of parchment paper down because I don't want these to stick to my work tie. In fact, I'm going to cut it though. I don't need this much, and I don't want it folding up at all. I want it flat. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice today. Now I have some satin Mod Podge. And I'm going to put just a little bit out onto here. I don't want very much. And now I'm going to add some water. This is just plain water. I'm going to mix in not quite equal parts, but almost. I want this really thin because I don't want a heavy coat of Mod Podge. I want a really, really thin coat. I'm going to put a few in at a time. And I won't make you watch me do all of these. This will still coat my pieces with the Mod Podge, but they won't be as heavy of a coat as if it was just the thick Mod Podge by itself. And I'm going to use some tweezers and put them down on the parchment so that they can dry. But by thinning this with quite a bit of water, and I try not to get too many in at once because I want to get them off of there again really quick. All right, now that our M&Ms are made, we're going to make the raisins. And the raisins are the part of this project that actually took me the longest of any of them, but I'm really happy with what I came up with. So first it was a mystery of what color am I making these? What color is a raisin? They're not black, they're not brown, what are they? Well, I looked on Google. Google tells me that raisins are a very dark purple red. So what I did was I had some plum color Sculpey, and it's a nice purple red, but I needed to make it darker, and then I wanted to make it a little bit not so solid. So I took 2 parts of the plum. I took 1 part of that same dark brown that I used for the M&Ms, and then 1 part of translucent. When I mixed those together, I got this color. And this color, when it's baked up and formed, looks like a raisin. So we are going to roll this out once again to, I forgot to get my little piece of paper here, about 1/8 of an inch. And I'm not going to make a bunch of them on camera because I've actually already made quite a few, getting this the way I wanted it and making sure I was consistently getting what I want. I went too small already, so that's easy to fix. We want about 1/8 inch snake. It can be a little bigger than 1/8 of an inch, but not a lot smaller. All right, that's pretty darn close. Now I've got my 8 squares to the inch graph paper again. Now, raisins come different sizes. So I'm going to cut approximately 1/8 of an inch, right? I'm double checking my list. Yeah, about. Maybe a little over on some of them. Right about 1/8 of an inch on some. Because we can have more variety. Raisins are a natural thing, so they're not going to be a set of a size. And now each of those is going to be made into a ball. Yeah, these took a lot of trying to figure out what to do, how to get that texture. And I'm really happy with what I came up with. And I'll try and get some close-up photos on the blog post so you can see all the different components of our trail mix together so you can see how they look. But yeah, these, you don't have to be nearly as careful about size. Unlike the M&Ms that are machine made, raisins can be bigger or littler. So once you have those little balls, kind of start it with your finger. And I have 2 pieces of aluminum foil. This piece of aluminum foil, as you can see, has been crumpled up really a lot, really mushed up. It's got a really fine texture. And then I've got just another piece here that's a little coarser. So take the ball of clay. You can start it with your finger, but then use the end of this and get it really roughened up. I forgot to get my plate over here. And really use that foil to make some texture. This one you want to push down. You want to get it really full of crags and dents, and it doesn't want to be smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and make a bunch more raisins. I'm going to bake them for 10 minutes. Now I would recommend, I want to say here, if you're making the whole batch of trail mix for your dolls, I wouldn't, if I was you, I wouldn't do each bit separately. I might do the M&Ms separately because they do need to have the finish on them. But for the rest of the stuff, I would just dump them all on one plate and bake it all together because they're going to bake at the same time and temperature. Because I'm trying to show you how to make each piece separately, I am actually baking each one separately just so that it's easier for me to film and show you each piece finished. So I'm going to get these all done. I'll get them baked and then I'll come back and show you how they look. And then we can move on to making our nuts. So I'll see you in a bit. And here are our baked off raisins. And I love the texture of them. I'm hoping, my camera's giving me problems. I'm hoping I can get a good picture of them, but I love how they turned out. So let's move on to the peanuts. All right, the peanuts are about the same size as raisin, a little smaller. And again, they're not uniform. They are about the same size and shape, but not perfectly. So I have some clay here. This is equal parts Sahara, which is a light beige, and white. It's the same color I use most of the time when I make things like bread. So once again, I'm going to knead this up a little bit. So I'm sitting on my tray. I'll make a few on camera and then I'll make some off camera. But these we're going to do some of them whole and then we're going to freeze some and make some so they're broken in half, kind of. So again, we're going to start the same way. We are going to roll out a cane or a snake that's approximately 1/8 of an inch in diameter. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's a good size. It's a little bigger, but that's fine. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to cut this off, and again, I'm going to make about 1/8 inch pieces. I really am trying to keep my head out from under camera and also keep what we're doing under camera. And sometimes those two things do not both happen at the same time. Because normally my head would be right here when I'm working. Normally I would have my head right over what I'm doing so I can really see what I'm doing. But I want you guys to have, hopefully, the better view. All right, so for these, again, we're going to do just balls. We're going to start with just a ball. And I'm going to get a small piece of parchment, I think, and put down. And I know they're not exactly the right color yet. But like we do on a lot of things, we're going to dust them with chalk. So the reason we're making a ball instead of starting with the oval shape, let's talk about that while I'm making these balls. It makes it easier to keep the ends nice and round. If I'm starting from a snake and trying to make an oval, it's a little harder to get everything the right shape. And they don't have to be perfectly round at this stage. That's not what we're after. We're just trying to make it more of a ball than a sliced off chunk of snake. We're trying to get rid of those flat ends that we've got. And I'll make more off camera. We're going to kind of make these more of an oval-y shape. And it's okay if they're not perfect. Now, I am going to figure out where I sat my... Ah, it's right in front of me. I have some chalk here. These are the artist chalks that we use when we make things like baked goods. I'm going to back this up a little bit. I know you won't be able to see as close, but then I can have more things under camera. I have some artist chalk here, and I have my brush that I use. And for these, we're only using this yellow ochre color. I'll have photos on the blog post, and in that Clay 101 series, that Working with Polymer Clay for Doll Foods, there's a video dedicated to doing the chalk and to what I use and showing you how to do that. Okay, it's not supposed to stick in my brush. That was not supposed to happen. Why? It has never stuck to the brush like that before. What the heck? That's okay. It's just now a funnier shape. It's a little more irregular, and that's okay. Peanuts tend to have some really odd shapes sometimes. They tend to have nooks and crannies, and they have dents in them, so it's okay if they're slightly off. Now I'm going to take a few of these, and I'm going to put them into a container, and I'm going to walk over to the kitchen and put them in the freezer because I want to freeze them for about 15 minutes. That will give them plenty of time to get cold and pretty firm, so that on the next step then we can cut some of these in half and make some peanuts that are broken in half. So I'm going to go put some of these in the freezer, and I'm going to make more peanuts. And when both of those things happen, I'll come back and we can cut some in half, and I'll show you how to do some detail on the inside. All right, these are fresh out of the freezer, and I'm going to dump them out on my plastic, on my paper. I've got my clay knife, and I'm going to, and I know it's going to be hard to see what I'm doing. I'll do my best. Be very careful you don't cut yourself, but try and cut your little peanuts lengthwise. The fact that they're frozen should help prevent them from smushing too much. And go through and get all of them cut as quickly as possible while they're still really cold. And that one's not very well cut, but I got 3 more, so I'll go ahead and do all of them on camera. All right, now we can take our time with the next step. But that had to be done fairly quickly because we didn't want them to soften up. Now I have a dotting tool. This is a nail dotting tool that I got off of eBay, a big set of them for really cheap. It's just got a very small point on it. And what I'm going to do, got your, I'm going to make a dent, and I'm going to bring you guys down. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing better. And hopefully I can keep my fingers out of the way and still stay under camera. There. I'm going to go through and I'm going to make that mark on all of these. And once I do, I'm going to move them to my baking surface. I'm going to bake these off for 10 minutes. And when I come back, we can start working on the cashews. All right, here's our real cashew, and they're bigger than the other nuts, and we won't make as many. So we're going to use the same clay, and we're going to make a slightly thicker snake. Not even up to the next hole on my gauge, which would be 9/64. I'm just going to make it so it's just a little too fat to go through. I do want to get whatever that is off of there. To go through the 1/8, but not to fill out that next one. A little thinner than that. And these don't all have to be exactly the same, because remember, natural products will be, I messed that up totally. Natural products will be slightly different sizes each one. They're individual. Let's get this over here so hopefully we can both see. Too fat. It's still a little fatter than I want. A little bit less, not much. Yeah, that'll do. Now I have some 4-hole to the inch paper because I want to cut this about a 1/2 inch long. These are considerably longer and considerably bigger than our other pieces of our trail mix. If it's a little fatter, then go a little smaller. We'll start with those. And once again, I'm going to make a ball. I am going to back you guys up just a little bit, just so I don't wander out from under camera quite as much, hopefully. So I'm going to make balls out of each of these. I'm going to bring back that graph paper here in just a second. All right, now we've got a ball. Now don't leave it laying on the graph paper for very long because the clay can pick up the ink if it's left in contact for too awfully long. I want it about a 1/2 inch long. And it's kind of wants to have one end be slightly wider than the other. That one is just about perfect for what I want. I want it to look right like that. It's a little long, but it's okay. I'll just work with these two right now because I see my battery's trying to die. And then I'll finish these up, bake them, and I'll come back when my camera's charged and these are all baked. So I am going to take these two. I'm going to start with that same chalk, that same yellow ochre chalk that we always use. Then I have some reddish brown chalk. All right, then I have a wooden skewer and I'm going to wrap around it. And there we go. We have a cashew. So I'm going to make a few more of these. I'm going to bake them at the same temperature for 10 minutes. When they are cooled, I will come back and we can look at our trail mix. All right, these have been baked and cooled overnight and I love how they turned out. So let's add them to the rest of our mix. And I think that looks great. I'm going to set these up in a bowl and I'll be right back and we can talk about the project. All right, I've put some of our trail mix into a bowl that I just fashioned out of the lid to a little tube. I think this looks fantastic. And it was a really fun project to make. They look complicated, but you saw the steps. They're super easy. So if you like the video, be sure and hit the like button. Leave me a comment. What kinds of things would you like to see in future videos? Don't worry, I'm listing all of those on a list and they're coming up in the future as soon as either I get to a point in the year where I'm using that where they fit a theme or when I figure out how to do them for you. There's 2 lists going. So be sure and leave comments either here or over on the Facebook page. Be sure and check the blog post for photos. I have listed all the colors of clay and stuff I used and a few of my thoughts in addition to what I've said on the video. Also, there'll be some photos, hopefully some good photos over there. My camera's giving me trouble today, but hopefully I'll have some good photos of each of the elements of the trail mix so you can really get a look at how it looks. If you enjoy the channel, be sure and share the links to the videos so we can get more views on the channel. That's one of my goals for the year. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. Thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.